I'd like to explore with you an idea that might help you to organise your thoughts, your ideas and your concerns in a visual way. Because if you're anything like me, you will have a to-do list and you will keep adding things to it and it will get more and more complicated and then become quite overwhelming. I've found that if I can move things around and I can shuffle things about, it somehow seems more manageable. So what I'm going to do is introduce you to the idea that even if we were to make some very simple small boxes, it can help with organising and prioritising and setting things aside as well. Again, we won't need many materials to be able to do this. If you have a piece of A4 copy paper even, any colour, that can be folded into 4 and cut, and then you will have smaller pieces that you can work with. This is just so that we can manage this really quite simply to begin with, but any size of container works as well. So you will need a pair of scissors. If you want to, you would be able to use a ruler, but it's not compulsory. You don't necessarily need one unless you're a fan of a ruler and more accurate lines. You will need one of the following as well, either a glue stick or perhaps double-sided tape or a wee bit of sellotape. You won't need them all, one of them will do. And then later on, you'll probably want pen or pencil and perhaps some little bits of paper cut up or little post-it type notes. But that could be any little scraps of paper towards the end. So what we will do is we will begin on the very simple way of making a simple box. Now I know that there are lots of different ways that you can form a box shape. There are many ways that you can do it with origami, and if you have a favourite then just use it. But I've found that this way is really straightforward and it's also quite quick as well. So even if you get one done just now and then you make a few more later, it could be useful to you. So what I have here is one of the small pieces of paper. And you know this, it would actually be the fastest way to do it would be if you just wanted to fold in about 1.5 centimetres, but you don't even need to measure it on each side. And I'm just doing this by folding straight away. And I'm turning the paper and making another fold. Now that is because I'm actually not bothered if one side of my box is just slightly different from another. It will still work just as well. But if you are someone who would much rather that things were a bit more accurate and you had your lines straight and you felt that would be more comfortable for you, then begin in this way by placing your ruler down, coming in from the edge a bit on each side and just drawing a line straight across. So what you end up with is essentially a rectangle in the centre and 4 others round about, and you've got 4 corners as well. So that is entirely up to you if you want to draw the lines first or just go in with the folds. If you draw the lines first, then you do the same thing, fold and work your way round your box shape. So when you've done that, what you want to do is sort out the corners so that they are going to fold quite neatly into place. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my scissors and I am cutting just in towards one of the corners so that it's become a little flap. And I would move along to the next one and do the same thing. So I then have another flap at my corners, turn it around, and you're going to do the other side. So just a snip there and a snip there. And then what you have is you have got the ability to fold these up, and the flaps will make the box. Now this is where you could choose if you wanted to use a glue stick or use tape, but you could just put a little bit of glue on each of the corners, and then they would hold their shape and become a box. So there we are. I'll just shift it round and get the last two done. And there we are. Now I realise if you're watching this in real time that you might just want to watch through and then settle down to make the boxes when you have time, but it is quick, so you probably can manage at least one of them in the time that we have got. So then you've got your first one ready, and I'll do that classic Kira sum I made earlier, because we want to get on to the idea of how you could actually use them, how they could be useful to you in helping really perhaps make you feel like that the long list of things that are going round in your head could feel more organised. So when I have got the several boxes there, I might like to think about the idea of placing things inside them, and that could take the form of several things. It could be things that really you need to do today. So there could be a box that is your today box, and you could either write small notes that could contain what does need to be done today, or you could even perhaps put in some objects. If you really need to post something today, you could pop the stamp in, and that is your first step, towards organising that thing that you do need to do. So you could also have a think about, well, it could be today, it could be next week. You could be thinking, what is it that I have to do? You might have to go and get a key cut or something like that. So you could pop that in, or it just might remind you of something or somebody as well. But you don't have to only use it in that way. There can be chances for you to just think about perhaps, your plans. Perhaps you could think about maybe some things that are concerning you or worrying you at the moment. It could be something really very practical, like a shopping list, and you could keep adding things into it. It could be as big as, things that might happen in the future, or you might be planning for in the future. And also, I do like to have something where you can store ideas, because ideas that come into your head are exciting, but then it can also become stressful if you never get to them and you're trying to hold them in your head, so they could be popped in a box as well. And I also like the idea of a box where you could put things that you would do if you suddenly ended up with some free time or a free hour. Very often it can disappear while you try to think of what you're going to do. So if you had another box, which I will have to make, you could put all these ideas of things that you could get down to in any free time that you actually have, and you could just go and pluck one out. I also like the idea that you could physically organise these boxes, in as much as if a day feels like there is just too much on the go and too much happening, you could actually push away the future. You could put your worries on hold. There's the future going. It was my ideas and plans that went first. You could leave yourself then with perhaps a wee glance into next week, what was coming up, but then you could pop that to one side, transfer anything in that really you think you should do today, and then you can concentrate on that one box. You've not forgotten about all the rest. They're still here, and you've got it out of your memory and into a place where they can be kept until you're ready to get to them. But you've then narrowed it down to one symbolic little box as well. Now, I'd be really interested to find out and see how everybody gets on with this activity. It's something that I'm certainly going to put into practice. It's something that you could add to or take away just depending on the day, depending on the week as well. It could be used for positively gathering ideas. It could also be used just really to release some of the thoughts that keep going round in your head. So I hope that's been useful, and I hope you would like to give it a try.